put this in too. I want people to know. My opinion about this needs to be heard. On Radiolab, they used to do this dumb thing where the start of every episode, their little theme song, was someone saying like, wait, are we recording? Oh, what? And it's like, we all know that you work for the government like we do. You're not in like your mom's basement recording an episode of Radiolab. This is like a huge production. Nobody's buying this like garage band aesthetic you're going for. And that always pissed me off. Anyway, welcome back to State-Sponsored Conspiracy Podcast. I'm here with my co-host. We're here in DC in an undisclosed location. We use code names to protect our identities. This episode, my code name will be White Shasta, and your code name will be Eric.
Okay, what? I gave you Jerry Springer last time because you wanted it. All right, and I took Star Jelly. So maybe you could do me a favor and not give me Eric.
Do you want to switch?
No, I just want you to come up with something better right now.
You will be...
I'm going to be Black Shasta.
Okay, I like that. Well, now that we have that out of the way, there's two conspiracies that I'd like to discuss today. One is a much newer conspiracy. This is kind of the cutting edge conspiracy that's very relevant right now. And then one is like a ye olden conspiracy theory that will take up probably most of the episode. We'll be discussing this sort of esotericism. But I will start off with the new one. This tweet really brought this back into the internet collective consciousness. This tweet by Jackie DeVoy, who I guess you would call her a journalist, although she writes for like British tabloids. But this is what she said, and this tweet was attached to a picture that she took of the sun with her phone. And it says, "I'm just telling a person in their 20s that the sun used to be yellow when I was a child, and he's laughing. The last time he saw a yellow sun was on Teletubbies. Here's the sun right now, white and a weird shape. How's it looking where you are?"
I saw that tweet too. I read the comments of that tweet for so long and laughed.
They're pretty hilarious. This tweet became so big. It has 6 million views. It became such a headline that it now has an official like context warning from Twitter that says, "Our sun is a celestial body that emits many forms of radiation, including electromagnetic radiation we see as the visible light spectrum. Put simply, in space the sun is white. Our atmosphere scatters this light, often emphasizing lower wavelength colors, like red." So this became such a big deal that they had to like attach this on there. Now obviously when Elon Musk bought Twitter, everyone thought, oh, this is going to usher in a golden age of free speech. But here we see he's cracking down on the sun truthers.
The community notes is it's a great feature. I love just reading how people straight up lie in a tweet and then getting like BTFO'd by like an official like context warning.
It is pretty funny. Yeah. And then she goes on, Jackie goes on to say that sun gazing can cure or relieve certain eye issues too. So she's essentially encouraging people to look directly into the sun.
That's like the number one thing you learn as like a child is don't look into the sun for more than 0 seconds. It's well, what do you mean it cures eye issues? That's what causes eye issues.
Supposedly this is like a very like powerful esoteric healing method. But Jackie did not invent this theory. This has been around on the internet.
That there used to be more color back in like the 60s or whatever.
Yeah, the idea that the sun used to be yellow.
The sky used to be blue or the grass used to be greener.
You could go to a drive-in a movie for a nickel. Yeah. But this has been around for a while, and it's kind of coming back now. But the best article I found on this subject came out in 2019, and it is called "When Did the Sun Change Color from Yellow to White, and Why Wasn't I Notified?" This is an article that you can read on thegoodmenproject.com, and it is one of the, well, most of the articles that come up are just discussing it as a crazy conspiracy and people saying, oh, you shouldn't look at the sun, blah, blah, blah. But this is one of the sincere articles that comes up first. And I really enjoyed this article. So I'm going to read some of it for you, the viewers, the listeners, so that you can learn more about this.
I want to make it clear to everyone listening, this is the closest we're ever going to get to talking about the Mandela effect, because it's too stupid to even warrant an episode or anything. Go ahead.
Correct. There will not be a Mandela effect episode. This is better anyway, because this is funnier to me. But the author writes this at the beginning. Men have been encouraged to keep an eye on the sky, to help predict and plan for the future, at least since the beginning of recorded history. It's a very lofty opening. He goes on, such as noting the position of the sun to determine the time to plant crops or detect the smoke of an approaching enemy army's campfires. Nowadays, men pretty much rely on machines attached to monitors to predict and plan for the future. Casting eyeballs upwards isn't nearly as important as it used to be. At least, that's my excuse for not noticing when the sun first started appearing as white instead of yellow, when not being filtered by clouds. So essentially what he's saying is that, these kids today, people today, they're on their damn phones all the time, and so they're not looking up at the sun. So it's snuck right past them when they change the color.
Nobody noticed. Until now.
This says a lot about our society. Everybody was too busy going on their phone playing Genshin Impact to notice that the sun changed color.
You think boomers know about Genshin Impact? That they probably, I think they're probably still on Pokemon Go. I think that's what they think.
Here's a more boomer reference. Everyone was inside watching MASH, and so they didn't notice. Is that better for our audience?
Yeah. Everyone's too busy watching Andy Griffith.
People are so busy listening to the radio plays inside that they're not even outside looking at the sun.
People are too busy fighting World War I. The Great War.
These lazy doughboys out in France, forgetting about the sun. He goes on. He writes, a dramatic change in the color of the sun should qualify as being an important discovery to communicate to the general public, or at least to some part of the public that I am part of. I received no such notice. No MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, PBS, NPR, New York Times reporting to prepare me for the shock of looking up to discover that there, not out of, but rather in the clear blue sky, blazed the sun in all of its whiteness. What do you make of that?
I'm wondering if that's their genuine reaction. Did they just suddenly start screaming? Did they freak out and run inside? Like a chimp?
I think I like to imagine that is what happened, but I think the broader point here is that the mainstream media, or the lamestream media, let him down in a major way.
That, or the sun's color didn't change, and it's not news.
Well, he goes on. I tried to convince myself that the sun is still the color of ripe lemons, with it only being the discomfort of staring at the sun preventing me from not looking long enough to see the still existing yellow ball of my childhood. So this essentially implies that he made a serious effort to go outside and stare at the sun enough to figure out what was going on here.
Why do my eyes hurt?
To his credit, he clearly tried to fight through the pain to get to the truth here. Then he writes, I remember asking a tree trimmer if he had noticed an increase in the sun's brightness, since I thought he would know if anyone did. He looked at me strangely before saying, no. He did offer the opinion that we were sure having some nice weather lately. So this basically this guy went up to like a random groundskeeper and asked him about this conspiracy, and the guy didn't know what the hell he was talking about.
Because the guy was trying to ask such a stupid question that the tree trimmer he put it back together into a regular question. Like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
I guess the weather has been nice lately.
Yeah, it is sunny today. He's like,
You're
no,
right.
no. No, that's not what I'm talking about here.
I mean, do you think there's a global conspiracy to cover up the color of the sun changing?
This is kind of the ultimate example of like the online man versus like the grass toucher. But then he also he continues to write about his experience, sort of talking to other people about this. He says, in response to asking others to please look up at the sun on a sunny day and see what color it is, I've gotten no, because I could hurt my eyes. For some reason, I am less shocked than I am by those who now assert that the sun has always been white, or claim they just don't have the time to contemplate such foolishness. So he has actively encouraged others to stare up at the sun, and they have told him that they don't want to. And he's been sort of let down by the sheeple who are, not picking up what he's putting down.
Is this perhaps what Isaac Newton felt like after the apple fell on his head? He tried to share his ideas about gravity, and he was simply brushed off as a foolish tree hugger.
They're just like, Isaac, shut up. Like, what are you talking about? He writes, I have no special training in sky watching. I have seen what I have seen due to time for contemplation of the obvious, due to retirement and an open mind. Now, what I think what this really speaks to here is people who have too much time on their hands are the ones who are most likely to get into these sorts of odd beliefs. Like, generally speaking, just people who I know, like personally, the people who really end up getting into some weird stuff are like people who simply have too much time because they don't really have like a job. I think that's kind of a big takeaway here.
Like us. I mean, that's why we just talk about conspiracies. We don't really do a whole lot besides this.
This is our job.
Yeah.
This is both of our full-time jobs.
We won't disclose our income from this, but let me tell you, it's gonna put our great grandkids through college, all right?
Yeah. Now, in conclusion, he says, well, I guess this isn't his conclusion. I'm not going to read the end of the article, but this is another one of his points that I enjoy.
What are you hiding?
He says, the mind can quickly go to asking the question of whether or not this change presents a threat to the well-being of a man's self or family or community, and if so, is there anything a man can do about it? This applies to women as well.
Thanks for clarifying.
Yeah, so the website is called The Good Man Project, and he's talking about men and, looking at the sun and like fires and stuff. Mm-hmm. But this is not like a misogynistic thing, because he is also encouraging women to stare directly into the sun.
Equal opportunity.
Yeah, this is an inclusive thing, and it is about representation. And I mean, I like this guy. I like what he's doing. He probably has eye damage now.
Can we just like clear the record on why he thinks the sun's a different color?
I'm open to hearing what you think the answer is. Yes.
Well, depending on the time of day, the season, the location of where you are, the sun can be many different colors to you. It can be yellow, orange, white, maybe like even like pinkish. I mean, just Google pictures of the sun. You'll see like multiple ways it can look depending on how you're looking at it. It still is yellow sometimes. Just wait for sunrise or sunset or something, dude. Chill out.
Yeah, I mean, that is the real answer. But I mean, when you're extremely paranoid about literally everything, you're not going to be able to think about things like, oh, the sun looks different sometimes.
This is why the Mandela effect is so stupid. It's because people would rather feel like there's some sort of like conspiracy or like universal paradigm shift that caused them to misremember the spelling of something. Have you considered that maybe you are at fault?
Yeah, it's like, could I have misremembered something? No, it's the entire universe that's wrong.
Yeah.
That's definitely kind of like what this is about too. Now, here is an example that's even older than this article. This is a video that came out 10 years ago, and I'm gonna play some of it because I really like the audio. And the visual is not important. It's just he's just pointing his camera directly at the sun. I mean, it's not. You can just imagine that that's what's going on.
Okay, I'm going to do a video today on this humongous white sun we have out here.
It's huge.
And I'm not going to shine it very long because I don't want it to burn out my camera.
That's
and all these bugs and little creatures I see up in the air. Now, every time I come out here, there's not even a cloud in the sky. And I'm going to put it right there.
Mm-hmm.
I can't come out here without planes, and the longer I'm out here, fake helicopters coming out, and just they're real helicopters. I don't know.
See, did you catch that? He said there's fake helicopters, but they could be real helicopters.
What is a fake helicopter?
What is a fake helicopter? Can it fly like a real helicopter?
Is it just like a projection?
Is a holographic helicopter? I mean, ultimately, I don't know. He doesn't explain. But I will continue here.
And it's just a lot of weird stuff that's been going on forever.
Mm-hmm.
Ever since 9/11, really. And like I was saying in my video the other day, there's a lot of things on the internet and a lot of stupid comments.
Mm-hmm.
My friend Ress, he calls it unnatural energy, and I agree.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty much sick of it. You know, I'm not saying I'm going to leave YouTube or I'm not going to do videos anymore, you know.
Well, thank God.
Something weird comes up over me, I'm going to. But I've been wanting to do one on this white sun.
What?
The sun is just humongous, you know.
It's humongous.
And I've already proved that there's something behind the sun because I took my negatives. Now, I don't care about you astronomy people or you college-educated scientists that are funded by NASA.
That's right.
And funded by the government.
That's right.
I don't care who you're funded by. I don't care who you debunk.
Tell him.
I don't care what you say to me. I know that I captured something by the sun with O negatives.
Well, the rest of the time he's not really talking about the color, but you get the general idea here that this is a conspiracy that does go back a little ways. Now, this is also kind of a video that's attacking us because we are funded by the government. But it's okay. I can take it.
He doesn't care about us. We care about him, though. We want him to get better.
I care about him. I want him to stop staring at the sun.
I want him to pay his taxes.
That's probably my favorite guy who made sure to capture this phenomena on video.
Thank you for recording the sun for us.
And a bit later in the video, I won't play it because it's kind of long, but he gets into sort of the other big conspiracy that is attached to this. You have the Mandela effect people who believe that the sun has changed colors because we have shifted into a new dimension because they turned on the Hadron Collider.
After 9/11, of course.
After 9/11. Then you have another group of people who are more like saying this is because of chemtrails. This is because the government manipulates the weather.
Because of the ozone.
Yeah, the ozone.
The ozone being depleted even though we healed the ozone like 10 years ago.
Yeah, which is nice. People don't know about that, but
yeah.
that is true.
Ozone is not a problem.
But basically these things, it's one of these things with these people, with this whole sun switcheroo. But I think really it's very weird. It's like a profound paranoia mixed with like nostalgia. Like, oh, you know, the sun was literally warmer and nicer when I was a child.
Isn't it literally warmer than before?
Well, here's what I'll say. I don't think the listeners should take our word for it. it's always good to do your own research on these things. And so I do think that, if there's no clouds right now, you should go out and you should look at the sun directly.
For at least a couple minutes.
I mean, get a good look.
Don't blink. Don't look away. Don't wear sunglasses. All right.
Stare at the sun
with your own eyes.
Yeah, go stare into the sun directly.
Let us know what color you see after that.
Email us a picture of the sun. Don't use Twitter. I don't want them to censor us and tell us it's white. Email me a picture of the sun, and we can get to the bottom of this
through Gmail, through Google.
But that's really all I have to say about that particular conspiracy. I don't even know if I guess it is a conspiracy. It's very conspiratorial.
They don't have a real story structure to it yet. It may have something to do with 9/11 or the ozone or something. Hadron Collider. But they'll figure it out, okay? I believe within the next couple years they'll find some way to, I don't know, maybe they'll tie it into AI or something. I don't know.
It could happen. I mean, so it was a thing a while ago, and it was kind of dormant, and now it's coming back. So I look forward to seeing where it evolves from here. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about, we talked about in the first episode, we talked about Tartaria.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's time to talk about Lemuria. What do you know about Lemuria? Is this something you're familiar with?
Does it have anything to do with Hollow Earth?
It actually does, a little bit. Well, Lemuria has a more legit origin than Tartaria. So the birth of Lemuria was scientists in like the 19th century. They were finding lemur fossils in Madagascar and in India, but not in Africa or the Middle East. So this guy, well, actually, it was a few scientists. Basically, what they said was there must have been some sort of lost continent that connected Madagascar and India that the lemurs could run around on. And it was a huge continent that has now sunk into the sea or whatever. And we'll call it Lemuria because we're not super creative. Although I do like the name. I think it rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah, and I had never really heard of this until I started looking into it recently. Because it is never mentioned on the show Zaboomafoo, which is about the talking lemur. Did you watch that show?
Of course.
Did they ever mention Lemuria?
Maybe a couple times, but not. They didn't go into detail or anything.
What if they actually did? There's like whole episodes where they talk about it.
Hey guys, today we're going to Lemuria with Zaboomafoo.
Yeah, whoa!
Helicopters aren't real.
So this was like a theory in like the realm of real science for a while, where people were talking about Lemuria. But it quickly went away when people discovered, plate tectonics and continental drift, and people realized that the reason there were these fossils in Madagascar and India was because Madagascar and India really were stuck together at one point before the continents drifted apart. But crazy people, they stuck with Lemuria for different reasons, and they held on to it. The biggest Lemuria enjoyer is Helena Blavatsky, who really brought Lemuria from the realm of like ye olden irrelevant science into the realm of insanity. And Blavatsky is the creator of theosophy. And theosophy is very difficult to describe because it's an occult, esoteric sort of religion that she invented in the late 1800s. And the only way to really describe it is that it's like if you just took every religion at once and every like conspiracy and you just had everything at once, that would be theosophy. So if you ask them like, what do you believe in? They would just say yes. Like, we pretty much believe in everything. Like, anything you can throw at us, we're going to be on board.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it is. I don't know if I'd say awesome. I would say more like unique.
It's inclusive.
It's certainly inclusive.
Diverse.
it's well, I'll get into that a little bit later. But she said that the Lemurians, the people who lived on Lemuria, they were one of the 7 root races, according to Blavatsky and the Theosophists. Now, originally there were the Polarians. That was the first root race. Now, the Polarians were more ethereal, and they divided like amoebas. They did not have sex.
Oh, they just sort of SpongeBobbed?
Yeah, those were the original humans, or well, more like the things that would go on to become humans. So then after the Polarians, you have the Hyperboreans. They were a sort of golden yellow color, and they reproduced via budding. So we're getting a little more advanced. And they lived in the north, but of course Earth was tropical at the time, so it wouldn't have been cold up there. So that's not something you can come at them for. And then after that, we have the Lemurians, who were from this lost continent of Lemuria, right below India. And the Lemurians, this is where we pretty much start to have normal humans. They were a lot like us, except they were much bigger, and they laid eggs at first, but then later, they had sex. Lemurian sex.
Well,
what do you make of that?
Well, you still have sex with the eggs. Do you mean like they did it like fish egg style?
Yeah.
Or bird egg style?
It was like the former.
Oh.
So they weren't having sex.
They were just...
as we would think of it.
All right.
They also specified that they coexisted with dinosaurs. So there were dinosaurs on Lemuria with the Lemurians.
So were Lemurians reptiles?
No, they were mammals. They were like us in a lot of ways.
But they laid eggs.
At first.
Okay.
They laid eggs. Now after the Lemurians, we have the much more familiar Atlanteans. Now, according to Theosophists, Atlanteans were basically just Asians. So we have arrived at Asians.
I thought Atlanteans were Greek people.
No, that's what you think because you've been listening to too much Randall Carlson. The Atlanteans today, the people who are most directly descended from Atlanteans are the Native Americans, the Mongolians, and the Pacific Islanders, not the Greeks.
Jason Momoa.
Yes, he would be a good example of an Atlantean. Also, Jews were Atlanteans.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she specified that.
I don't really look at The Rock and think, you know what, this guy could be Jewish.
But that's what Blavatsky might think.
Okay.
Because they're from the same lost island, The Rock and Jerry Seinfeld. After the Atlanteans, we have the Aryans. This is the stage that we're at right now. And Blavatsky would say that pretty much everyone on Earth today is an Aryan. So in that sense, she was very inclusive. Someone like Hitler would say, oh, sorry, only certain people get to be Aryans. But she was kind of like, pretty much everyone is an Aryan.
That's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. However, she was also extremely, extremely racist and anti-Semitic.
What?
And believed that Aboriginals and other people like that were basically descended directly from gorillas. Yeah, and she said that Jews were they'd lost the secrets of Atlantis and become evil.
I guess that's a unique way of being anti-Semitic. Stupid Jews lost the Atlantean secrets.
Yeah, it's a very specific gripe that she has with Jews. It's very odd. Now, the next one, the next root race is what's happening right now. Because Blavatsky said that the 6th root race would come about in the beginning of the 21st century. That's where we're at right now.
Whoa.
And they are the Australo-American subrace. So Zoomers are going to be some of the first Australo-Americans. They will come mostly from Australia and the western United States. Now keep in mind, Australia is actually a leftover chunk of Lemuria, according to Blavatsky. So that's where Australia comes into this.
Okay, well, hold on. So Aboriginals descended from gorillas, according to Blavatsky.
Yes.
They weren't Lemurians, but the other people that were on Australia were from like Britain. So question mark?
Well, basically, it's more like white and Asian Australians might be Australo-Americans.
But they're not from Australia.
I mean, if you think about like anything theosophy related too hard, it starts to fall apart.
But these are things that happened in like within like 300 years.
Yeah, well, I mean, certainly during her lifetime, she could have had enough knowledge to understand that all of this was fake, but she was just kind of making stuff up. Like, she was kind of like, and a lot of the stuff that she wrote, she literally just copied word for word from like Hindu books. Like, she just copy and pasted it and then sold it to like British people and Americans. So then, the sixth race. We're almost done with this part.
I thought we were. I feel like you've named like 50 races so far.
Anyway, the sixth race. This is what hasn't happened yet. The sixth race will come in in the 28th century, according to the Theosophists, and that is when everything at that point will be run on nuclear power. Everything will be controlled by one world government, and everything will be run by the reincarnation of Julius Caesar.
Oh.
The Theosophists are big on reincarnation. They're big on that. So a new continent will appear for this sixth race to live on. California will break off and become an island. I don't get why that's important, but it is specifically mentioned that California will become an island.
That's the new continent?
No, that's just another new island.
Oh, that's just a side note. Okay.
Yes, it is, but it is specifically pointed out that this will happen in the 20th century. The seventh race, the last race, will just be a sort of spiritual wisp person without any sort of gender, and they will go to Mercury. The end.
That was poetic. That was like the end of Lord of the Rings.
It kind of is. So this is how Lemuria factors into this weird occult teaching. But this is not the only account of what became of the Lemurians. Blavatsky does not have a monopoly on Lemurian lore. The big way in which Lemuria sort of got into the public consciousness. Well, hold on. It's not in the public consciousness. The way in which it got into the crazy fringe consciousness.
The schizo consciousness.
Yes, is in 1905. A book came out called A Dweller on Two Planets. It was written by a guy named Frederick Spencer Oliver, but he claimed that it was really written by Philos the Tibetan, who was a Lemurian Atlantean man whose spirit he was channeling.
Wait, how are you a Lemurian Atlantean?
I don't quite understand, but I believe that Frederick sort of considered them to be like interchangeable terms.
So this Tibetan man was Jewish and Lemurian?
He was, yes, is
Cool.
my best answer for that, yeah. And then according to Frederick, or according to Philos, however you want to say it, the Lemurians, after their continent sadly sunk into the ocean, they moved into Mount Shasta, which is a mountain in Northern California, and they built an underground city there with secret underground tunnels and such, and they could occasionally be seen hiking around the mountain in like white robes, but usually you're not going to see them. They're going to be chilling underground,
Right.
Obviously. And in the book, he talks about how the Lemurians, they had anti-gravity powered aircraft. They had submarines. They had something that was basically television. They had something that was basically phones. They had aerial water generators, whatever that is. They had air conditioning. And they had a high-speed rail. So it was Lemuria was doing pretty good.
Yeah, sounds fun.
Yeah, the book, A Dweller on Two Planets, claims to be a completely real account, not a fictional sci-fi book. And it is taken seriously by some people. Like, it's taken seriously by people today. I looked at the Amazon reviews and some other reviews to understand like who is reading this book in the 21st century. Here are some of the reviews. I haven't finished the book yet, but it is a strange book as it was written before there were airplanes or any aircraft, yet it sounds like their airspeed was similar to ours on Atlantis. I'm sure there are more surprises. So he does have the caveat that he hasn't finished the book yet. But the big sticking point for this guy was that they had very high air speeds.
All he cares about is flying fast and loose.
Yeah, he wasn't too shocked by the idea that there was a secret continent below India. Another person wrote, anytime you enter little-known areas, you will have the naysayers. That's us, we're being attacked again. You will have the naysayers pontificate on matters they know very little. Things our civilization would scorn and ridicule are established fact to the discerning. While somewhat jumbled together, some of the stories are priceless. So this guy does admit that the writing maybe is not great in this book.
But it is nonfiction.
Yeah. He can forgive the writing because it's such an important, red pill. Another review says, the description says he channeled the info. I am wondering if some things he channeled correctly and some things not so much. So this guy's having some doubts. Some of it could be real. Other parts, maybe they didn't have aerial water generators.
I wonder what the discourse is like in the Lemurian believer community. Like, no, they did not have TV, but they did have air conditioning.
I could not really find like much discussion out there. Although I would maybe it deserves another search.
I wonder where they hang out.
Although I am emailing the Lemurian Fellowship right now, which is not purely dedicated to Lemuria, but I hope to talk to them a little bit.
Kind of a misleading name.
I know, but the Goodreads reviews are also interesting. This guy says, this book represents one of the absolute greatest texts this world has been privileged to receive. Oh, that there were more who would discover its treasures. Equally marvelous, beyond an additional light is found in the sequel, Earth Dwellers Return.
Electric Boogaloo.
So, like, that one's called, like, two dwellers, too
furious.
Another glowing review. Easily the best book I've ever read. Even if you don't accept it as fact, it makes one heck of a story. It certainly has changed the way I look at the world and how I plan to live my life. So there's some sort of like practical application of this book, according to this guy.
Yeah, what advice does the book give you?
I don't know how it changes his life plans. I would like to know. This might be my favorite review. This book contains a wealth of revelations for the student of metaphysics. Secrets unknown to science, religion, and historians are now mine. Topics covered are Atlantis, divine physics, karma, reincarnation, afterlife, and the path to enlightenment.
And the Chaos Emeralds.
And I've collected all the Dragon Balls. No, and then the last thing he says is, and human life on Venus.
Whoa.
This guy is like an anime villain, unlocking the secrets.
Oh, I almost forgot to mention human life on Venus.
The secrets are now mine. I love this guy.
What if the guy who left that was Joe Biden?
This was Biden.
Secrets are now mine.
I wish I could do the Biden impression.
Secrets are mine, Jack.
That's the best review. But here's another one I liked that really made me think. This is the whole review. It just says, but even if we could prove it was all true, would that have any comparison to true love?
Oh, what?
That's the whole review on Goodreads. I love that.
Bros pontificating in the Amazon reviews.
No, this is on Goodreads. The best reviews are on Goodreads.
Okay.
And I mean, he's asking kind of the real question. It's like, so what if there was a Lemuria? What does that have to do with true love?
Maybe the real Lemuria was the true love inside our hearts.
I'm imagining this guy like writing this review on like the library computer, and he's wearing like a cloak and like combat boots.
I'm imagining it's Fabio wearing like a puffy shirt at the library.
Maybe he's typing this on like a boat.
What is Lemuria compared to true love?
That kind of sounded a little bit like Arnold.
It could be Arnold too. Arnold at the public library. I don't care who it is. He's got to be at the public library writing this review.
I think all of these reviews were written on Wi-Fi that was like not your house, you know?
Just homeless people.
But A Dweller on Two Planets is clearly a great book. I mean, I haven't read it, but like based on the reviews, it's pretty obvious it's an amazing tale. But that is not the only account of the Lemurians on Mount Shasta.
There's more?
Oh yeah. A man named Guy Ballard, which first of all, a very badass name. But Guy Ballard, he started a theosophy spin-off group/cult that is called I Am Activity. And he claimed to have met a Lemurian in real life when back in 1930, he was hiking on Mount Shasta. He probably should have been doing anything else, really. But he was hiking on Mount Shasta, and this is his written account of what happened. This is what he wrote later. He wrote, "It came time for lunch, and I sought a mountain spring for clear, cold water. Cup in hand, I bent down to fill it, when an electrical current passed through my body from head to foot. I looked around, and directly behind me stood a young man who, at first glance, seemed to be someone on a hike like myself. I looked more closely and realized immediately that he was no ordinary person. As this thought passed through my mind, he smiled and addressed me, saying, 'My brother, if you will hand me your cup, I will give you a much more refreshing drink than spring water.' I obeyed, and instantly the cup was filled with a creamy liquid. Handing it back to me, he said, 'Drink it.'" That is his account of what happened. No joke, that is word for word what he wrote about his encounter with a Lemurian.
What?
Yeah. I mean, the jokes write themselves. I don't even have to elaborate on this. Ballard, he later wrote that this Lemurian man, was in fact 18th century adventurer Count of Saint Germain, who theosophists believe is still alive and is an immortal alchemist and Lemurian.
Cool.
It's quite an amazing tale.
I feel like we should make a trip to Mount Shasta. I want to taste that creamy liquid.
I want to find out what all this was about. But he drank it unquestioningly.
He's like, I'm down.
Now, other than the theosophists and occult people and crazy people on Goodreads, the other group that believes in and cares about Lemuria is Tamils. And Tamils are a people group. Basically, they mostly live down where, close to where Lemuria supposedly was. And Lemuria is a fairly mainstream belief among this group. And they basically say that all people ultimately come from Lemuria. And then people just spread out from there. So all languages come from Lemuria. Everyone comes from there. It was the cradle of civilization, not Africa or Mesopotamia or whatever. It was all Lemuria all the time. And Lemuria was great. It was a utopia pretty much. They had no caste system. They specify that. And this is like taught in schools down there, and in like college courses. You will learn that like Lemuria is like the birthplace of civilization before it sunk into the sea. So Lemuria is like very much alive and well in the hearts of these people, not sunken into the sea.
That's beautiful. So much about Lemuria is just like, it's so poetic and romantic. True love.
Yeah, it's all about your heart and like just being in the vibe and just being out there. You know what I mean?
Think about where you came from, but never forget who you can be, you know?
And that's what Lemuria means to me.
RESPCT.
I will specify that there is no evidence that has ever been found that Lemuria is real at all, even a little bit.
I'm open to it.
You're going native on me again.
It's won me over yet again. Another conspiracy has won me over.
Here's what I will give you. This is as much as I can give you. I talked about this a little bit in some distant episode of the previous program, but this is the most I will give these Lost Land people. Atlantis is mentioned in like actual Greek dialogues. There may have, at some point, been an island off the coast of Greece that was called Atlantis that people lived on. And it was volcanic, it exploded or whatever, and now it's not there anymore. They did not have cars or tractor beams. It was not like Nadia, Secret of Blue Water, the hit anime series that Evangelion is kind of a spiritual successor to in a weird way. Stop emailing me about Nadia's Secret of Blue Water.
Nobody is emailing us about Nadia.
The most I will give you is that there might have been a totally normal island called Atlantis. That's the best I can do. I'm sorry.
Well, I heard that Atlantis may have just been used as some sort of like fake kingdom in a Greek story.
Yeah, the other equally likely possibility is that it's a purely hypothetical thing in this dialogue, and they're not referencing a real island that ever existed.
Like the equivalent of writing a story set in America and the town is called like Pleasantville, USA or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Just so like a sort of utopia to use as a hypothetical.
Yeah.
That's equally likely, despite what Randall Carlson and Graham Hancock will have you believe. I saw someone in public in real life reading a Graham Hancock book, and I wanted to give him a smack. What do you think about
that? We have agents that can do that for us.
I should notify them.
Get in touch with Hillary's people.
This is all I have to discuss about Lemuria and about the sun. But I do here's an announcement for the listeners. There are legitimately gonna be guests. I know that pretty much every episode we end by, like threatening you guys and saying like there's gonna be a live tour in like a joking way. But there really are gonna be guests coming on the podcast soon.
And they won't be AI. They won't be schizophrenic. Well, no, they will be. But they're gonna be here and they're gonna be telling us about the crazy things they believe in. But we're not gonna call them crazy, all right? We're gonna listen. We're gonna have a wholehearted, genuine conversation with them, and we're gonna learn. We're gonna learn and we're gonna love.
Because what does it matter if it's all real compared to true love? On that note, thank you for listening. We would be fired from our jobs if nobody listened. If we did not have you guys. I talked to our boss about this a little bit. I said, what is like the cutoff point for ratings before this gets shut down, before we get fired? He chuckled, he said fired, and then he walked away. So, thanks for listening.